AITA for removing the bedroom lock after my husband ignored a family emergency? Background about my husband. He stays up late at night and has to wake up early to go to work. So when he gets home at 5, he has to get his 2 hours nap so he could both make up for lack of sleep and also be ready to stay up late to play with his console. He values his sleep and has one rule in the house that he enforces strictly, which is to not be interrupted while sleeping. He literally put a sign on the bedroom door saying, "Do not wake me up under any circumstances. Just no. Unless someone's hurt or dead though." In this case he said he still wouldn't be of much help anyway. The kids and I would sometimes wake him up, but for serious reasons. He got mad and started locking the door. I get no access to the room for 2 hours, but that's not the main problem. This past Tuesday, my 3-year-old son had hot oil spill on his hand while his 14-year-old sister was cooking. I heard him scream and saw that the oil was covering his hand and half of his arm. I brought the first aid kit, but he was in so much pain and his skin looked really bad. I rushed to wake my husband up. I kept knocking but got no response, so I tried to open it, but it was locked. I spent a while between knocking on the door. He had his phone turned off and getting dressed after my daughter asked the neighbor to drive us to the hospital. I couldn't waste more time cause my son was crying. The neighbor took us to the hospital and I couldn't help feel livid the whole time. We got home and my husband was pacing around asking wherever were and why I didn't answer his texts. I blew up on him after I showed him our son's injury and told him that I pounded on the door to wake him up, but he said had his earbuds on and didn't hear a thing. I called him reckless and neglectful for ignoring a family emergency. He said I could say the same thing about myself for leaving our son unsupervised and causing him to get a burn. I stopped arguing and went to remove the bedroom door lock. He started yelling at me saying I had no right. I refused to respond. I just walked off to calm down. He didn't stop complaining, calling me bossy and saying that by removing the lock I've destroyed his peace and quiet and caused him sleep deprivation. He's insisting I put it back, but I refused. I could be wrong for what I've done, but I was frustrated and mad. AITA? NTA. Your husband needs to grow up. Seriously. So he is at work all day, comes home and takes a 2-hour nap, and then start gaming until late at night? Is he like 12? In what world is this acceptable for a grown-ass man with a wife and children to do this? NTA. And it's important to note that you had to get help from a neighbor because your husband was being actively useless. He showed you what you can expect in an emergency situation. Thank goodness it wasn't even more serious. And that is nothing. Absolutely no help or support. None. Just whining about his sleep. Whining about his games. Whining about his privacy. How is he improving your life, sis? Like for real? WTF did I just read? Your husband takes an early evening nap so he can stay up late to play video games? Do your kids have any relationship with him, because it sounds like he never sees them awake? Obviously NTA. Or, and this might seem really radical at first glance, he could maybe not play on his console into the night. If it's a choice between the safety and security of his family and playing fucking video games. NTA. Your husband is being selfish and irresponsible. He is an adult with children and doesn't have a right to stay up all night playing games and sleep all day while you raise the kids alone. NTA. Accidents happen, no matter how much you stay alert. But I don't believe your husband didn't hear you calling. He chose to ignore you. NTA. You really need to look into separating from your husband. His top priorities are as follows. 1. Himself. 2. Gaming. 3. Work. This is setting your children up to have a terrible relationship with either their father or both. You and their father in the future. It will only be a matter of time before your 14-year-old realizes that she is not in any way important to her father. Your husband sounds just like the smoothie father from that story that recently hit the news. Father buys a peanut butter smoothie for his kid that's allergic to peanuts. And while his son is supposedly in the hospital having an allergic reaction, the father is back at the smoothie shop threatening the employees, saying that they could have killed his son. Your husband cares more about his beauty rest and video games than he does his son, who is very injured. Just like how that father cared more about berating employees to make himself feel good than his own son. He says, by removing the lock I've destroyed his peace and quiet. No. Having kids did that. That's part of being a parent. Too bad for him. You are NTA. If he absolutely must lock the door, make it one you can open in an emergency. A key or a combination. Though I think having a door he can lock his wife out of is a weird thing to insist upon. Sleep or not. NTA, but Jesus Christ, why are you with him? He gets a 2-hour nap because he needs his console time? I'm sorry if tough love doesn't work for you, but have some self-respect. You deserve more than an adult child. What's the point of having a husband if he's this useless? You're a role model for your son and daughter now, and you're modeling that this is okay behavior. NTA, how's the little one doing? NTA, but you're married to one. It's terribly convenient that he values his sleep so he gets to go home. Not lift a finger while you do everything. Then he wakes up, gets on his console and plays until late into the night. Like, what is he even for? NTA. Your son was seriously injured. What if the house had caught on fire? Would you have had to try and kick down the door to get your husband's attention? The whole bit about him having to have a 2-hour nap as soon as he gets home from work bugs me. How about he goes to bed at a reasonable hour, rather than staying up late to play with his console? Does that mean he stays up late gaming? Sounds like he needs to grow up a bit. NTA. This is seriously a worth considering divorce level event. Would you and your family even miss him? If he works all day, takes a 2-hour nap and then stays up all night gaming, when does he spend time with his wife and children? He's really lucky you just removed the door lock instead of shoving it up his ass. Which is completely what I would have wanted to do. You have every right to be absolutely livid. He failed you and your family in an emergency. There is no excuse in the world that would ever make this okay. Please let this be a fake, fictional post because I don't want to believe that there is a father and husband out there this damn shitty. NTA. Your husband chooses to play his game late into the night. He doesn't need to do it. There is also a huge difference to sleeping through an emergency and just being in a different room. When said emergency happens, you responded straight away while your husband continued to sleep. NTA. For emergencies like this, obviously it doesn't make sense to have a lock. But I'm still pondering the fact that he locks you out of your own bedroom. Doesn't matter if he needs his sleep. NTA. I'm so angry in your behalf. Maybe if he got his ass out of bed and helped with the kids during the busiest time of the day, then he could have been supervising. He naps during dinner, homework, bathing, bedtime so he can stay up and play games? He's aware he's not 16 anymore, right? So his stroppy, moody tantrum phase about not being disturbed is done. Then he tries to blame it on you? His actions would be absurdly laughable if it weren't so sad. You'd be better off as a single mom to 2 kids rather than 3. He's a terrible husband and father. Your son is severely injured and he's having a wobbler because nap time is more important, and also, Because you didn't answer the phone while single-handedly dealing with an emergency? He's such a jerk. NTA. As a parent to a young child, you do not get to demand undisturbed sleep behind a locked door, with no way for your family to reach you, especially just so you can stay up late playing games. Info. Why are you with this man who is as useful as a syrup-soaked waffle in a hurricane? NTA. If his earbuds work so well, then there's no need for a lock. Him trying to blame you is disgusting, and he seriously needs to prioritize his family over playing games. NTA. Earbuds on, phone off? Something doesn't sound right there.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. AmITheAsshole is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.